Hi everyone, I'm Rob Holub. I am the head trainer along with the rules interpreter for the CLOA, who services most of the state of Connecticut, along with all high school and youth games in that area. We're going to be going through the 2025 high school lacrosse, boys lacrosse rule book. The nice thing is that there is very few changes within the book this year. It is essentially a non-rules change year. The NFHS did send out a decent amount of points of emphasis along with rules clarification, so I will briefly go through those now. Eye shade is still a point of emphasis where it is a single stroke within the frame of the eye socket, along with properly worn equipment with helmets having all 4 points attached, along with the chin strap being over the chin, and other pieces of equipment, including shoulders, gloves, or elbow pads, all worn by the manufacturer's specifications. The goal of this too is to make sure that this is part of the coach's certification, that all players are wearing properly worn equipment, including eye shade and mouthpieces and other pieces of mandatory equipment, along with having them actually worn throughout the entirety of the game. In the event something that is a mandatory piece of equipment comes off, is the player is going to be killed immediately. With that said, too, with the helmet, there's an additional portion where the player needs to be removed from the game if that occurs for one additional dead ball whistle. So that's one whistle to start play and then one whistle to kill play in that scenario. So they need to come off. That is standard to what we did last year, along with the injury rule. The ball is then awarded to the team that is entitled to possession. It can also be a reface if the face-off is not concluded. And if the ball is loose at this time and cannot be determined who is entitled to possession, might go to alternating possession in that event. If there is a hit, an illegal hit that occurs that makes the helmet come off, that player still needs to go off, and the team that is penalized does not get the ball. And so that goes over on the equipment side along with eye shade. The idea is to have players safe. Same idea where the scrimmage area was expanded to include this term active play. So think a passer or a shooter who has now moved away from that 5 yards, which used to be the scrimmage area from the ball, and yet is still entangled with another player or is still hit legally or illegally after that, as that now, again, that play can be killed as that player is still, quote unquote, within active play. We are going to go over the loading zone in another area and another slide where we have a visual on that. And the NFHS did expand now as that hits to the head or neck can be similar to the college rule of 1, 2, or 3 minutes non-releasable, depending on what the definition is. It can be an indirect contact, meaning a check that starts good and ends bad and ends up in the neck or the head area, a 2 minute, which is direct head or neck contact, or 3 minutes, which is flagrant or excessive hit to the head or neck area. Remember, high school still has anything that is a blindside hit is a 2 or 3 minute non-releasable foul. The onus is still on the hitter to make sure that the person being hit is eligible for being hit, I think is the best term to use there. It is not only within a legal position to be hit, but is not having their head down or their head turned and suddenly then being hit as soon as they catch the ball. Or again, something like scooping or from behind or from the side or outside their immediate field of vision. A 3 minute and potential ejection penalty can be discussed if we feel that a targeting occurs. So high school has these additional safety features and rule kind of upgrades, if you will, depending on what the exact play is. So all of it still comes down to safety on that. On the official side, what was pulled throughout our members this year is, again, multi-minute fouls, and what would like to be passed on not only to the coaches but the players. But again, there are certain fouls by rule that they need to be called a certain way, as we just discussed. The indirect, direct, or excessive or flagrant carry certain penalties and can go up from there, along with things like a blindside hit or a targeting hit are by rule certain amounts of minutes. There's also judgment calls on other things, such as what we kind of call run of the mill of cross checks and illegal hits or late hits and unnecessary roughness can go from 1, 2, or 3 minutes depending on the severity and judgment. So there's two types of those fouls. Some are by rule and we start at certain areas, or we are mandated to go to just one type of foul. And then there's judgment calls as well. So there's differentiating between those types of fouls. On the game management side and conduct as well, is that within the rule set and within the certification is that help is going to come from the sideline is when game management is needed, or conduct is need to be addressed in terms of players or assistant coaches or even head coaches or fans or anything like that, where it is a group effort, not only officials but head coaches and site administrators on that. On the offside stuff, we spent a lot of time as officials talking offsides in the preseason and helping train our members. Offsides is very difficult in a lot of games. There's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of different people running around. Is a lot of times it takes us an extra second. So just be aware of that. We know you might still yell offsides, offsides, they have too many, and we get that. But let us count, is that we like to count a second and even a third time, believe it or not, to make sure that we are 100% accurate. Because once we blow that whistle, let's say if it's an offensive offside, we've killed the play and we've killed the chance if the ball does go in the net, and that's the end of the play. And if we have it wrong, that's it. Is we can't recreate that play. On the flip side of that is if we throw a flag and it's unintentional, we're going to blow a whistle. We're going to make sure that everybody knows it was an inadvertent flag. We're going to give it back to the team that had possession in that side. If we are right, again, we want to make sure, again, we can call offsides late, meaning that the play might continue, a goal might be scored, the person might come back on sides or go off the field. That still occurs, right? That offside has still occurred, and we can throw a flag late. It takes us a second as humans to count a little bit. The other ones that we saw as a little bit of confusion last year, so just to re-highlight, flag down at the end of periods if it creates an uneven scenario, meaning that there are not just one and one in terms of players in the box on opposing teams. There's just one player or multiple players that causes that unevenness in terms of manpower, so to speak, to throw hockey terms in there. Is, again, the flag denotes possession. And so even if the game clock goes to 0 and then the flag down, is that the team who is man up will start with the ball. There's other variations that can occur depending on if additional fouls occur or something in a dead ball happens. But to keep it simple is that if we have a very clean, a flag down, time expires, the team that is going man up gets to start with the ball outside of their attack area if they're in the offensive half. And again, if the time expired and the ball was in the defensive half, we are going to move it to that face-off X to start play with that team who is man up. If the team is in possession at the end of it, again, it starts in a similar spot, just can't be inside the attack area on the opposite side of the field because we're switching ends between those periods. On face-off violations, the other side, and they clarify this in the NFHS rulebook as well, is that if there is a violation, that everybody is still restrained within the restraining box. So when you have your 3 attackmen, 3 defensemen, and your goalie in one area, and then 3, 3, and 1 in the other area, those players cannot come out of that area until the next whistle to signal possession. So again, that was one of the points of emphasis we wanted to go over on that. It is not like college, and there is no additional penalty if a player violates at a face-off. The face-off is exactly the same as last year: down, set, a pause, maybe an adjustment, and then a whistle. So all of those things, and excuse me, between down and set is when you'd have your verbal or physical adjustments, and then there should be a pause in between that set and that whistle. So the last portion here to make sure that we're moving along time-wise is just your visual. This hasn't changed, but again, this seems to be an area that is a very big disconnect, mainly because the different publications of NFHS or other areas did not update this graphic for the last few years, even though it changed. So this is extremely similar and is the NCAA or college way that the sideline and bench area looks at. What is a different name is this additional extended coaches area within the college game. We still refer to it as the loading zone. This area specifically in a regular playing time, so we don't have substitutions going on, let's say if it's settled offense on one area or the other, this entire area should be cleared from the 40-yard line all the way behind the next to the tables, all the way back to the sideline. And so your substitution cones are still on the 45-yard line or 5 yards apart from the midline and 10 yards in total. And then this additional 5 yards, which matches up with the wing line, is clear of all players. Coaches may stand in this area, but players may not. And so what we want to see during live play, once substitutions have concluded or before a face-off, is players are all at the green X or to the left. A player who is in the pink X, who is technically outside of the coaching area, but is next to the table, is still not good. Is that this line runs across the field on a vertical. And so again, all players need to be to the left of the 40-yard line if they are on the left side of the field, or on the right of the 40-yard line if they are on the right side of the field. And we just want to remind, if players make sure, and we might move you back, and if you have a penalty and you're kneeling down in the table area to serve that penalty, we want you closer to the table area and away from the sideline. So by rule, we want you 5 or 6 yards back where the table is. So hopefully that gives you some insight of what we're looking for, a couple of the changes, and what nationally they're looking for us to emphasize. Again, if you have questions on stuff, ask your coaches, ask your ADs. I'm super happy to make additional videos or answer anything specifically for you. Enjoy the 2025 season, and we will see you soon and honor the game. Thanks.